Charles Oliveira being an underdog against Islam Makhachev. Fundamentally speaking, ladies and gentlemen, it makes absolutely no sense at all. Primarily because of many factors, or primarily because of an array of different factors. Right, Islam Makhachev. I think Dan Hooker, if I'm not mistaken, is literally the only person that Islam Makhachev has fought in the top 10 of like current active UFC lightweight fighters in the top 10. The only person he's fought in the top 10 is actually Dan Hooker. Ladies and gentlemen, that is embarrassing. Now, I'm not sure where Drew Dober ranks in like the lightweight division. I'm pretty sure he definitely ranks outside the top 10. But apart from Dan Hooker, I cannot personally remember any person that Islam Makhachev has fought in the top 10 rankings in the UFC lightweight division. Absolute crazy at 155 pounds, right? But the guy is still fighting for the undisputed UFC lightweight title. This is why I made a video back in the day talking about, I don't know, a couple of months ago, talking about why I believe that Dana White privilege is actually a real thing. But it really is actually a real thing when you look at it fundamentally, right? I mean, you've got someone like Islam Makhachev. Again, he's an incredible fighter. He's, I guess, some people like to call him Khabib 2.0, right? That's a compliment for him. Though I don't believe that he's as good as Khabib, but to be the favorite against the undisputed, defending, reigning UFC lightweight champion of the world in Charles Oliveira. I'm talking about Charles Oliveira from Brazil. The guy who literally not only annihilated Justin Gaethje, former title contender by the way, Dustin the Diamond Poirier, former title contender, Michael Chandler, defeated the likes of Kevin Lee. Like, he ain't no joke. He ain't no joke. And he's actually the underdog against Islam Makhachev. Again, Islam Makhachev, a guy who hasn't fought, apart from Dan Hooker, hasn't fought any top 10 fighters, right? And a lot of people make the argument that, well, you know, Islam Makhachev's wrestling is great. Well, let me make something clear to you right now watching. Let me make something clear to you. Charles Oliveira has the highest rate of submission, highest submission in UFC history. The most amount of submissions, in UFC history. More than anyone else ever. Like, so the dude has been around, a highly decorated Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, right? I mean, he's Brazilian. He does it the Brazilian way. Now, I'm trying my best to obviously give an unbiased approach in making this video, to be honest. But it's going to be hard, to be honest, to see how Islam Makhachev, at a basic level, would be able to beat Charles Oliveira. I'm trying to figure out, yes, it's a possibility, don't get me wrong. But to have him as a favorite against Oliveira just makes no sense to me. And let's look at the fight. Let's kind of break the fight down a little bit, right? We've got Islam Makhachev, obviously from the Republic of Dagestan in Dagestan. I mean, he's Khabib's cousin and one of Khabib's best friend as well. Trains at the American Kick Boxing Academy, right? So one of the best gyms in like current, you know, like in MMA basically, right? It trains there, and he trains with the likes of Luke Rockhold, the likes of DC. And, you know, when Khabib was fighting, he trained with Khabib as well, and like Cain Velasquez and all of them fighters, right? Great wrestler. But again, we haven't seen Islam Makhachev really tested. He'd been knocked out in his debut in the UFC, right? Been knocked out clean in his debut, but after that he was dominating fighters. But the fighters that he had been beating, these ain't fighters who were like top 10 fighters or anything like that. His recent fight was against Bobby King Green. Don't get me wrong, Bobby Green was a real fighter, but Bobby King's takedown defense, I mean, was just shocking. I mean, if you look at the percentage when it comes to his takedown defense, I mean, he's a good striker, but we all knew that obviously Islam Makhachev was going to come down and take him down and submit him, and he did exactly that. Do you know what I mean? So we knew exactly what was coming. Like when it comes to his fight against Bobby Green, right, and most of the people that he fought. But the problem is, though, he has not fought someone in the top 10, some like a real challenger apart from Dan Hooker. That's the problem. So to make an argument for him being the favorite when he hasn't proven himself yet, that he's actually, you know, not only deserving of a title challenge, which I don't believe that he deserves it yet, but also to have him as the favorite, that just doesn't make any sense, right? And I'll keep repeating myself. I know we've got Du Bronx Oliveira, obviously, who's again the champion of the world. I mean, he did not have an easy road in the UFC. Like, if if we're talking about the complete antithesis of Dana White privilege, right? We're talking about Charles Oliveira. He does not have anything like Dana White privilege. I mean, his career, his trajectory in the UFC has always been, bums and all of that, bumps and bruises. It's essentially a bumpy road, right? It wasn't easy. I mean, his career was up and down, up and down. Like was winning fights. Was getting destroyed by the likes of Paul Felder and all of that. Fights that today he would have absolutely easily won easily. I mean, he would have destroyed the likes of Paul Felder and the likes of Pettis if he lost to Pettis and that. But the transition, the change. I mean, it's almost like he went through this sort of like motivational transition where he's like, you know what? I'm in some sort of like a career decline, and my career probably could end if I don't make a change. We've seen the same with Glover Teixeira. I mean, Glover Teixeira, the last time he ever fought for a title before, obviously, him winning the title was back in 2014-ish, I think, against John Jones. And he got destroyed somewhere down around that year, maybe 2015-16, by Alexander Gustafsson. He got buried. I mean, he got destroyed by Gustafsson, right? So everyone thought Glover Teixeira's career was done, but came back just, laid a beating on the likes of Anthony Smith. Like, he was literally dominating fighters. Jiri Prochazka, obviously, is the new champion, but I mean, his fight against Prochazka just showed how tough Glover is. And then to do what he did to Jan Blachowicz to become the champion as well. And the same story, it's almost like relatable to Oliveira's story as well, honestly. It's like, it's like the transition is incredible. So for people to sit down and just say that, Oliveira is just going to lose because Islam Makhachev is the better wrestler, well, he might be the better wrestler, and Oliveira doesn't mind being on his back. He doesn't. He does not mind being on his back. And he doesn't mind being taken down. As I've mentioned earlier, he has the highest rate of submission in UFC history, right? So we need to watch out for the triangles, those guillotines, because if he gets Islam Makhachev in those positions, and a lot of people would say that, he's tough, he's not going to tap and all of that. Well, if he doesn't tap, he's going to go to sleep, honestly. If he gets hit with a triangle by Oliveira with those long legs, right? He's going to be in deep trouble. So how I see the fight going, I believe that Islam Makhachev is going to start the fight really good, right? It's going to start the fight with some degree of intensity and pace, right? And some people make the argument that if the fight ever goes to the 5th round, Islam's going to win by decision because he probably would be on top, dominating, like trying to take him down, landing blows and all of that. That makes sense, to be honest. And I think that probably might be an accurate sort of like prediction, to be honest. However, I think we've never seen Islam Makhachev being taken into deep waters. I know Chael Sonnen has made an argument, deep waters is a foolish thing to say. You shouldn't say deep waters, it's like a bullshit. You know what I mean? But he's never been taken to a place where some fighters break down, and the real test of a fighter is when they're taken to those deep levels. And we saw it with Jiri Prochazka. He got taken to that deep level by Glover Teixeira, and he still came out victorious. Submitted a highly decorated Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt in Glover. So I mean, if Islam is taken into that deep waters, we'll see what his character, what he's really made of. But currently we don't know because he's been dominating fighters who aren't even in the top 10. The only fighter he's beaten in the top 10 again was Dan Hooker. Right, ladies and gentlemen. So this fight is going to be incredible, honestly. It's going to be incredible. People with completely opposing styles. Charles Oliveira, striking-wise, is definitely a better striker than Islam Makhachev, in the sense that, yes, Islam is incredibly technical. He's a southpaw. He's got that nasty straight left from the southpaw stance. Don't get me wrong. He has all of that. But Charles Oliveira is more unorthodox. He's more unorthodox, so he could be throwing kicks and punches at the same time. He could be throwing spinning hook kicks and all of that. Though that still makes him vulnerable to be taken down. And Islam's best weapon is his wrestling, just like his cousin Khabib. But again, Charles Oliveira doesn't mind being taken down. So this fight is going to fundamentally come down to jiu-jitsu and wrestling. Makhachev's incredible wrestling, and Charles Oliveira's highly decorated, world-class Brazilian jiu-jitsu. What's going to prevail? In my opinion, I believe that jiu-jitsu is going to prevail, and Oliveira is going to submit Islam Makhachev. That's what's going to happen or knocks him out. And I can understand why some people would make the argument that Islam Makhachev is going to beat Charles Oliveira. He's going to out-wrestle him, probably submit him or ground and pound him, right? I can understand all of that. But the reason why I'm saying that Charles Oliveira is going to beat Islam Makhachev is primarily due to the fact that Islam Makhachev has not really been tested before. Charles Oliveira has fought the best of the best in UFC history. I'm talking about any fighter. I'm talking about the likes of Poirier. We're talking about the likes of Michael Chandler, Justin Gaethje, Kevin Lee. You bring in the likes of Paul Felder. You bring he's fought them all. I mean, the only person I can think of who's merely really competitive that Islam Makhachev was forced, Dan Hooker, and that fight wasn't competitive. Just ran into him, just took him down, got him on a Kimura and got the submission right. That's it. His recent fight against Bobby Green, you might consider Bobby Green as a top contender, but Bobby Green got his ass handed to him like easy, and I don't believe Bobby Green is a top 10 lightweight, lightweight contender. I don't believe he is. He's not. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, my prediction is that Charles Oliveira submits Islam Makhachev in round 3 via triangle choke. That's my prediction, right? But we'll see what's gonna happen. Let's go.